All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. and who the bookmakers are actually favoring to win this fight, and also tell you why. And I think Bob Arum's recent statements have a lot to do with that, so we'll talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the welterweight division, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. Hopefully, we're getting closer and closer to this fight being made. However, there's a lot of going back and forth about who is going to win the fight and why. However, they're starting to put out the odds for the fight, and there is a favorite in the fight. But before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and supporting the videos that we do every day and the live streams that we do every day. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please take my invitation to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. All right, so this is going to be good news, bad news for people, but this is relevant in the sport of boxing. We have, as people know, boxing is a sport that is, how should I say, directly connected to gambling. And you oftentimes could know who the favorite in the fight is by looking at the odds for the fight. Now, in this particular fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, there are a lot of people saying that the fight is a 50-50 fight, but the bookmakers disagree. I personally don't say that it is a 50-50 fight. I lean towards Errol Spence Jr. in the fight, but many people say, pick Terence Crawford to win. However, the bookmakers have Errol Spence Jr. as the favorite to win the fight. Some by very slim margins, and one where if you are somebody that wagers, you can actually make some good money on either side. You have the ones that I've seen have him as much as a plus 200 and a minus 200. Some have plus 150, a minus 150. However, that is favoring Errol Spence Jr. But as close to, I think it's fair to say, as close to a 50-50 fight as you're going to see in any particular boxing matches. Usually, whenever you have something that close, it's, they have to give a favor. They have to favor someone first or another. But that right there is about as close to a 50-50 call as you can. You can actually make good money if you can actually make good money betting on Terence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr., right? Now, one of the reasons that I think that Errol Spence Jr. is slightly favored to win the fight is because of something that, Teddy Atlas said. Teddy Atlas was like, yeah, if you look at the bookmakers or who all these people are going to pick to be the favorite in the fight, he says it's going to be Errol Spence Jr. The reason why Teddy Atlas said it was going to be Errol Spence Jr. is because of his style, if I recall correctly, because of his style, because of how good he looked and how dominant he looked against Yordenis Ugas. But Teddy Atlas said that he believed that he would go for Terence Crawford because he believes that Terence Crawford has intangibles that many people do not see. Specifically, what he talked about was his instincts, his ability to react, and his ability to to call things on the fly. Ironically, that's the exact reason that I don't pick Terence Crawford and I pick Errol Spence Jr. because I go with the consistency. If I know that if somebody's going to bring it on a consistent basis, they have very, very few defensive weaknesses, but they are very, very strong offensively, and they're aggressive, and they're scoring on, and they're going to rack up points. I'm not going to bet on the guy that I think is looking to catch one big shot, right? Now, there are certain guys like Deontay Wilder that are just became, a pro at that, and, time and time again was able, to really catch somebody, to catch the guys that he's fighting and knock them out because he was such a big puncher and so good at looking for that, for looking for that opening. But in the case of him, when he came into Tyson Fury, he was actually able to land those big shots several times. But it was the guy that was more consistent, and the person that, and eventually in the second and third fight, really started taking the fight to him, that was able to pull that off. So, you know, it's kind of, I see the same thing with Errol and Terence, but, you know, the odds do pretty much say what Andre Ward said and what a lot of other people say. That's about as close to a 50-50 fight as you can get when you're looking at numbers like that. Another, how can you say, thing to look at is, or not an intangible, that's not the word I'm looking for, but another way to look at it, or something to consider, would be what Bob Arum said, right? Now, Bob Arum said, he was talking about Terence Crawford and saying, look, I believe that Terence Crawford is a better fighter, and I was picking him before, but right now, against a guy at the level of Errol Spence Jr., your head has to be right. And Bob Arum is like, hey, man, I don't know if his head is where his head needs to be, or if his mind is where his mind needs to be heading into this fight. Now, obviously, he's talking about, you know, stuff related to the lawsuit that Terence Crawford took out on him, you know, basically not even basically, just overtly accusing him of being a racist. And, you know, and the fact that, you know, he is no longer has a solid, you know, solid promotional situation, you know, that bit of instability when you're going into a fight with Errol Spence Jr. may very, very well affect you, right? So that's his take on it. But, you know, all in all, man, you know, I certainly hope that this fight is going to get made. I keep telling people, though, you know, really, in essence, after the Errol Spence Jr. Ugas fight, nothing really changed, other than Errol does not have another fight, you know, to secure before he gets to the Errol Spence Jr. fight. But other than that, the stance that all of the parties have taken, I have not really heard. I've not really heard change. I've not heard Terence Crawford talk about, you know, whether or not he was going to be able to take, whether he's going to take 50% or not. I know, you know, Errol said that they should be able to work out something and then it will make sense. But, you know, the PBC and Showtime, they sound every bit as wary about the fight as they did before, right? So, you know, even though, you know, I think both fighters want to make that fight, similar to Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, right? Those guys were both saying that those guys wanted to make that fight. But still, even though they wanted to make that fight, it still took years and years and years for those guys to actually make the fight. So, you know, I'm hopeful that that will not be the situation with what's going on with Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., and that we'll actually get to see one of those fights, those really, truly close fight that can go either way. What a lot of people are saying is the best fight, you know, is the best fight in that division, or the most important fight in that division since Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. Personally, I would say that there probably is, and it may be a little bit more important than what happened with Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad. But, you know, whatever the case is, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it gets made. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.